so excited today to have our guest Savanna join us for the
Mm,
She Leads. This is a collaborative partnership between women that wants to come into the field to share their magic and their wisdom
mm,
through their creations, through their art forms. And these conversations are really an intention for women to feel inspired by what we're
mm,
sharing. I
mm,
feel that there isn't just one specific way of how women can lead and how we can show up in leadership, but we're constantly being reminded on how to be a better leader through each other's leadership. And so,
mm.
those of you watching, welcome to another episode of She Leads. Savannah, I'd love for you to just a quick little introduction, a few words, if you want to, just to for people to feel who you are at a soul level.
Mm. Thank you. Thank you. Hmm. I come from a land where there are eagles in the sky, where there are whales out on the ocean, and the trees they grow high. I come from a land we call the Slamin Nation, here on the western shores of the place referred to as Canada. My name is Savanna. I'm coming to you from the Tla'amin Nation. And yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. I love to sing. I love to dance. I love to write poetry and share spoken word. I love to connect with souls around the world through my creations of sound and space. Um, and yeah, we're here to explore more of that.
Beautiful soul song introduction. I truly believe that each of us have a soul tone, and
Mm,
it's so beautifully expressed through you. So thank you for introducing yourself with that beautiful tone. A way that I love to open up this space with women is really asking themselves the question of how does ethical leadership show up in your life and the ways
mm-hmm,
that you serve women.
mm. Ethical leadership. I I feel like those words together, when I see them in my mind's eye, they immediately collapse into the word of integrity. And when I think about ethical leadership, well, it's like there's so much to explore there. But I almost immediately, like right in my gut, like below my solar plexus there, it's like integrity. And what does integrity mean to me? It's being a woman of my word, and being a woman of my intention. And I think that that begins with myself. If I get up in the morning and I say I'm going to go for a walk in the woods, even if it's chilly as fuck, get those hiking boots on and get out and be a woman of your word and do what you tell yourself you're going to do. And I think building that sense of integrity inside myself is a really foundational element of being able to show up in spaces and feel that sense of like self-esteem and of knowing that I'm true to myself, I'm aligned, and therefore I can share from a place of wholeness inside. And yeah, having integrity to my craft and to my lineage and to the land that I walk on, and to be in a place of wholeness inside myself. I think it comes in so many different forms and different ways, but I consistently ask myself, am I showing up as I think I am, or as I'd like to project this idea of who I am? Like, am I really that person though? And am I standing in my truth? And yeah, I think that's, for me, that's the foundation of ethical leadership. Do you have that similar experience? Does integrity ring true to you in that?
Definitely, it's definitely a value that I feel is so beautifully tied into the construct of ethical leadership.
Mm,
And sometimes we fall off, at least I do, so
totally.
there's
Totally.
moments
Mhm.
of like needing to check myself and And that's the beauty of when, we as women have these open relations with one another, that we can check each other and be like,
Totally.
hey, are we stewarding this project with ethical leadership, or are we
Hmm.
to the earth in an ethical way? Are we all inclusive? And so, yeah, I definitely feel a
Yeah.
really deep resonance with the integrity,
Yeah.
ways that we walk and doing the things that we say we're going to do, you know?
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. From the like the simple, most mundane daily thing to, birthing a major project and setting the intention for that. And I think tied in, I was very much thinking as well what you were just voicing of, I think it's the importance of building community and fostering relationships where there is a love, there's an environment that allows for really wholesome and loving communication that can hold us accountable.
Hmm.
I've recently just been really anchoring into the importance of having sisterhood or and sisters and brothers and beings around us that are able to welcome us into being like, hey, did you notice this thing that happened? You said that, but then this, and where can we create a deeper understanding for why behaviors or actions or thoughts, words are arising that are out of integrity. And so, yeah, ethical leadership. I think it takes a community for anyone to really stand as like a leader. Let's say we can't do it alone, and I've tried to do that, and it's like, this like hyper independent complex within me of like being a woman and like trying to be an entrepreneur and like, just trying to be so hyper independent. It just doesn't work, and it can for a certain amount of time before you totally burn out. And so having community around you that's really there to support and, to herald in like what we're doing collectively. And maybe I'm a songbird who's, giving voice to what is being collectively held. So it's not just me, we're leading together, I feel very much.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
definitely feel like we're in the era of the we, where
Yeah.
maybe like more patriarchal was like me, just
Hmm.
my way or the highway. And this is what's really like, I feel like this big movement, and one of the ways in which we are bringing these conversations forward is to learn from each other, right? Because we all come from different backgrounds and upbringings and different education systems and different areas on earth where leadership was shown to us in a different way. And I feel like now we're
Mm.
birthing a new blueprint of what it can mean and how it can be to be
Mm.
ethically leading as females.
Mm.
But I
Mm.
love this thread about being a songbird, and I'm curious, how did you come about finding your voice? What was that
Mm.
journey like? And um, yeah, like I want to understand a little bit more on like how did you come to sing your soul tone, your voice, your
Mm.
prayers, the way in which you speak and
Mm.
share your medicine, your music? Like, did you just always knew that, or did something happen in your life? And was there a journey to finding your voice? Because I feel many women on planet Earth
Mm.
right now are reclaiming our voice, may it be through singing or poetry or just speaking truth in general. So I'm curious.
Totally. Okay, well, I'm curious, like, how much time do you have? Because that's like a full-on hero's journey.
Yeah, I mean, let's keep it brief because there's so much.
Yeah, yeah. A
So,
rhetorical question. Yeah, I grew up singing. There's like home videos of me 3 years old, like arms outstretched, singing to the ocean. Like I think, it was always in me. Song has always been in me. And then through my teen years, I was in choirs at school and musical theater, and I studied classical voice. And I think at a certain point there was this like recognition of my voice and my talent, and then things became really really challenging. And I think I was like very much brought up in this like highly competitive kind of education system where it became about like winning competitions and all this. And there was like a huge chasm for me because I noticed that like the joy of singing was gone because it was more about getting up on a stage and, ranking best. And I totally rejected singing through that experience. So probably when I was like, I'd say 17, I was like, I don't want to sing anymore. I'm done, And yeah, there was this big breakage, and I ended up doing a degree in economics. And then I was like on my way to law school thinking I'm going to be this like super corporate woman. And it was actually in 2012, it was about 6 months before I was supposed to start law school. My younger brother died, and he was 18 and I was 22 at the time. And his passing and his crossing over the veil pulled me into this phenomenal awakening of recognizing that what I thought life was actually just one side of the story. And that there was like this complex aspect of spirit and feeling so connected to him and his spirit. And it was through that, you know, the story goes on and on, but it was mainly through that I was like, oh, I have this voice. And through singing, I felt so connected to my brother's spirit. And being able to just really attune to, you know, vibration and frequency and the resonance of space, and being able to sing into spaces and hear my frequency be reflected back to me, almost like a call and response between myself and nature and myself and the spirit realm. And so it was through that it was really prayer that brought me back into my voice. But yeah, I mean, it's like there has to be this chasm and this like angst and all this stuff that happens in life for us to, for at least for myself, to really recognize the potency and, the potency of my voice, and also the potency of prayer, more so than, you know, singing classical opera, which is beautiful in its own right, but a completely different field to be playing in. Mm-hmm. Thanks for asking.
Yeah, no, I really love how that came to be. And isn't it with many of us, you know, we kind of find a path and then we kind of give up until we feel that pull from the soul, from the heart, calling us back into being of service in a different way, that it's not about the fame and the fortune and, you know, all the things that we can win or accomplish, but it's really something that comes from the heart, that is the medicine, you know, which
totally.
now it's your voice and your songs.
Yeah.
I'm curious, with your songs, do they, you know, people always have the saying, you know, like, oh, this song came to me, you know, and I always say, well, you know, everybody can receive songs. And it's the mindset that I had to change over the years, of understanding that it's not just all of my friends that are really deep into medicine space or medicine songs that can receive the insights and the wisdom, but there are these songs in, you know, in our consciousness that are hanging around. It's about the listening. So I'm curious, what is your process within the framework of receiving these prayers, these songs that you then share with the world?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, we could talk about this for so long. I find it really fascinating. I'll give a quick example of, I was just down in the Big Island of Hawaii, in Puna, singing at a festival called Manifest. And it was like on the third day, I was just walking through the market of the vendors area, and there was a woman singing on a stage just beyond that space, and I could hear her voice from afar. And I had heard her kind of introduce herself. She was also from British Columbia, which is where I'm from. And she was also using an RC505 looper. And then she started this song, and it was like, I'm calling all you angels. I'm calling all you angels. And I was like, I have sung that song. And I didn't even tell her, actually. I should get in touch with her. But I was like, that song arrived to me too. And so I share that example of just, I really feel that songs, you know, they want to be sung. And if you, like, I've been singing that song for probably like 6 or 8 years, but I've never brought it into spaces or produced it or anything like that. But I'm like, wow, that song really wants to be heard because it's coming through her as well. And that's super cool. The melody was almost the exact same and the lyrics were almost the exact same. But I mean, my own experience of it, I think mostly when I'm in movement, outdoors, if I'm like going for a hike or going for a walk or gardening or anything, swimming, being outside, they just come to me. And, you know, this one piece that I produced back in 2020 called She Moves Me. I'll tell a brief story around that one because I think it's such a gem on this topic. I had taught myself how to produce music during lockdowns. And that first album, Breath of Earth, I had spent like 4 months, like deep in these 4 tracks. And I was like, oh, it's like, yes, this is it. But I'm really very much learning what I'm doing as I'm going. And I didn't really have a sense of what was happening, but I was kind of stumbling my way through and getting really like into the details of production. And so I had these 4 tracks and I was about to send them off to be mastered. And I was like, okay, I think this is it. I think this is it. And I had, agreed with the guy who was going to master it, what our time frame was and everything. And then right as I was about to send it to him, I was like, okay, it's not complete. There's something missing. And I went downstairs to my computer and really within probably 20 minutes, I just like laid down some MIDI instrumental. I did some like vocalization over it. I spoke this poem, She Moves Me, into the microphone and sent it to him. I never even wrote it down. And that's a song that has really traveled the world and I think has really touched people. And I think when I look at that, the lesson for me is, as much as you can, get out of your own way and really just allow spirit to move through you. And when a song arrives like that, trust it, trust it, and don't let that analytical mind come in and like erase this and fix that. And it's like, just allow spirit to speak through you. And that's my story about that song. I hope that answers your question somewhat.
I love that, for sure. Being inspired by nature and just allowing ourselves to relax into the vibratory field that is the elementals that gets to speak with us, and we get to sing through it and receiving the messages and the prayers of what is really needed. So I have a question for you. What was it like producing as a woman or bringing your music out in the world as a female? Yeah. What was that process like? Or maybe like what was one of your challenges or for that?
Yeah. Well, for years and years, I've been songwriting, and there was probably about, prior to my first release, there was probably about 6 years where I was attempting to produce my music with a producer in a studio, where I'd, like save up my money and then like go into a studio, and every hour you're like, oh my gosh, this is like costing me so much money. And like, and like, I really, I probably have like 2 or 3 albums that I had attempted prior to Breath of Earth. But every time that I ended up with, a demo or whatever it may be, some tracks, I was like, it's not my essence. Like I felt really disconnected that someone else had like been in the cooking with me, and it didn't feel authentic and it didn't feel like me anymore. And it felt like the music was always transforming in a way that I didn't want it to. And I didn't fully know how to communicate that in the studio. And so, it was in lockdown that I was like, all right, like if this is like potentially nuclear war and like everything's over, like at least I need to get my voice out for a moment in time. And so I had an ex-boyfriend had left this like foam mattress at my house, and I just like took scissors to it and taped all this or nailed all this foam to the inside of my laundry room, and I made myself a sound booth, and I was like, frick it, I'm doing this thing. And it was like, I really overcame this like mental block that for whatever reason, I just hadn't been exposed to enough women in music production. And so I had always just thought like, that's what men do. I don't know. It was like this really funny construct in my mind, probably because it is an industry that's highly, highly saturated with men. But I just said, oh, excuse me. I just said, I'm doing this, and I'm going to stumble my way through no matter what. And that's what happened. Yeah.
Amazing. And your music went out into the world, and
yeah. And I think like one note on that is something that I like consistently anchor myself into, and I think it really does come back to leadership, is start where you are with what you have. I had like one of those little Yeti blue microphones. It wasn't even like an actual recording microphone for music. It was like a funny little old podcaster microphone. That's what that whole album was recorded on a USB Yeti microphone. And it's like, that's what I had. So go, start where you are with what you have. And I think getting lost in this idea of like, oh, it has to be this way or it has to be that. No, it doesn't have to be any way. It has to be you. That's it. Go. Yeah.
Amazing. I love that. I think that many times, we think we, at least in my perception of starting up things, like may it be a podcast or something, like we have to have all the perfect things before we can actually do it. And your story is just such a beautiful testimony again that start with what you have, and
Mm-hmm.
trust the process in it.
Yeah.
I would love to
Yeah.
know, what are some of your core values and how do
Mm.
they inform you and the way that you lead as a feminine leader?
Core values. I feel like there's so many, but I think most of it all basically boils down to integrity, honesty. Yeah. Honesty. Like, and to be honest with ourselves first and foremost, to be really honest with ourselves. And I think from there, when we know that like our foundation is real, there's a realness, there's an integrity to who we are and what we're doing and how we're showing up every day, then there's like so many threads that can blossom from there. But, being in integrity with ourselves and being honest with ourselves. Then from there, of course, like community and connection and self-expression and embodiment and all of it is so beautiful and so much what I value in my life. Yeah, so, beauty. I love beauty. I value beauty and connection. I value sisterhood. I value authenticity within those spaces. And yeah, there's so much I could say.
So many values, right?
How about you? What are your core values?
For me, truth, truth is really probably at the foundation. Truth, higher consciousness, and what that really means for me is always being able to expand and change my capacity
Mm,
for evolution. And
mm-hmm,
I feel another core value of mine is joy, is allowing the joy of life to feed my soul and to keep guiding me into the direction of where I want to be weaving my energy and the people I
mm,
want to be around with, but really having that thread and remembering that the joys in life is, and the joys of singing and dancing and celebrating life, the
mm-hmm.
joy of feeling accomplished and making ripples in the world. And so, yeah, I would say
Totally.
like truth, consciousness, and joy. It's
Joy.
really what I've
Love
been
it.
walking this path, which is Satchitananda, and this
Mm,
statement of following your bliss. So, yeah, those are some of mine.
that's beautiful. Yeah, I
I'm
love it.
curious
Thank you for
in
sharing that.
yeah, you're welcome. I'm curious in your view, what do you think the world needs right now to create a better future?
Ha, more music and more dancing,
Mm.
more being in the body, I think that when we can actually be embodied and be present with our animal body and sit in the discomfort that can often arise in the spaces that we're in currently, being in our body and being present for what arises. On my last album, I have this one song called The Greatest Gift. And it says, oh, the greatest gift of all is to feel the divinity in your fall and learn the lessons in the pain. Go out, go stand out in the rain and let your bare feet touch the ground and feel what inside wants to be found. That.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah, to be present for the human experience. I think that's what we need for a better future. If there's so many distractions and there's so many things calling for our attention. And if we can start by being present with actually what's inside and, the glitchy bits and the beautiful bits and the expansive bits and create space for our soul to speak, I think we'll be better off, if we can all tap into some of that juice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel that. I feel that on such a visceral level. And what's really alive for me, in these changing times is slowing down
Mm-hmm.
to be more in present because
Yeah.
there's so much external and there's so much stimulation. There's just so much going on. I mean,
Yeah.
like even in just half or an hour of moment in time and space, there's so many emotionality that can happen. And so I really love that. This
Mm.
kind of segues beautifully into the question that I want to ask next, and that's how do you balance your demands of leadership while nurturing your overall well-being and your creativity? Because
Mm.
life can be so demanding with like all the things that needs to get done and where we need to be and
Yeah.
things we need to tend. And like how do you find that sweet balance to
Yeah.
continue to nurture yourself? And
This feels vulnerable to share, but I will say, I think in the last 2 years, I've opened myself to being able to ask for support, and start to build a team around me and recognize like I can't do it all by myself and I don't really want to do it all by myself. And yeah, being able to ask for support has felt like such a challenge for me. But building relationships that I trust and that can offer me reflections and that can sometimes take the load of different things, yeah, working with an assistant, working with someone to support me in booking shows and expanding my career while also leaning into like allowing my husband to support me as opposed to being like, I've got everything. I'm fine. I'm a woman. It's like, oh God, get over yourself already. Like, what's happening here? And just, yeah, softening enough to receive support. I definitely, I see that now as a strength, whereas I think before I would have seen that as a weakness, to need help is kind of how I may have thought of it in the past, but to be open for support and in that way also like invite people into your magic, when we have so many things going on. It's beautiful to be able to share experiences and to like collectively build beauty and yeah. I think that's my answer to that question. These are really juicy questions, Tish. Jeez. I feel like
I think
each
you're in
one could be a yeah.
a whole conversation by itself, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. So I'm curious where people can find your music and learn a little bit more about you and
Mm-hmm.
if there is something exciting that's birthing that you want to share with us. So, yeah.
Yeah, thank you for asking. You can find me on all streaming platforms. The name is Savanna. If it doesn't come up immediately, you can search either of my album titles, Breath of Earth or Becoming, and then she should be there. And my website is creatresssavanna.com, Creatress, Creatress. And that's my Instagram handle as well, Creatress_Savanna, Savanna. And yeah, there's some exciting things happening. I feel like I'm opening a portal at this moment to my next album, which is a collection of songs that have been living inside me for, I want to say like 6 to 8 years. There's just like all these songs that are just like, okay, mama, let's go. And so that's something that I'm really thrilled about is feeling that the time has arrived to birth them and to really be in the process of welcoming them in and doing so with support. And I'm looking forward to sharing that music more. In the fall and winter, I'll be performing, likely traveling a little bit internationally to share music. And in the meantime, I love to just stay connected with anyone who feels inspired to reach out and connect, to have more conversations like this and to explore collaborations. And yeah, I'm always open to hearing. I feel like there's so many people on the planet doing such incredibly beautiful things right now. So, yeah, I'm open to being in dialogue, and I'd love to hear from anyone who is interested in connecting.
Amazing. Thank you so much for coming on
Yeah.
today,
Thank
sharing with us a little
you.
more about, the ways in which you lead and the ways in
Mm,
which you make this world a better place. And so, yeah,
mm,
thank you for all your songs and all your
mm.
beautiful prayers. And
Mm.
I pray that the birthing of this next album for you would just, be able to spread far and wide so more people can receive the healing balm of your voice and your beautiful prayers.
Thank
And
you, Tish. Thank you
yeah,
for doing what you do and showing up and creating spaces like this to have these conversations. I think it's really powerful. Yeah. Yeah.
amazing. Well, thank you all for listening. Until the next episode, my name is Tish from Anima Viva, and this is Savanna. I wish you a beautiful